Hello everyone. This is a video overview explaining how the Google folder drafting will work and also showing you that I have released lesson content for the first unit. So we need to know the flow for the Google folder drafting, and we also need to make sure that we're reading and processing the lesson content, printing out anything that can be printed out so that you have it in front of you. That would be the short story, any handouts that I provide, and things of that nature. But first, let me click into the individual Google folders folder. And this is what you'll see once I make this active. Now, currently, I'm in the teacher view for Blackboard, not the student view. So when you click in here, you should only see the folder that belongs to you. So the folder's actually full, but you'll only see the one that belongs to you. So for example, if I were to click into Marilyn's shared Google folder, it will open and she can click on the link and only she has access to this link. Everybody has their own folder and it's shared privately just between you and me. And so this is the reason why I put them here, and the reason why I asked for your Gmail is this is the easiest, most foolproof way for me to have you draft in that shared folder. By doing it this way, whenever you click on this link, it will take you into your own Google account. Now, I'm in my Google account right now, but it's a share folder. I'm the one that created it. But when Marilyn or you click into yours, it will take you into yours, but you'll already be inside your shared Google folder. So I have a parent folder for the whole class, and then everybody has their own Google folder inside that. And so this is Marilyn's private Google folder. All of her documents and assignments for the week will live in this folder. So everything that requires a file assignment submission, which is pretty much most everything in the class, except for the third-party assignments like Hypothesis, Padlet, Usia, things of that nature, PowerPoint, everything else is going to be in a file, and it needs to be saved in this folder, your individual folder. So the nice thing about this is you'll have all your stuff organized into that folder. So if you're going to create a new document, you'd come up here and make sure that it's saved in this folder. But I also created a master template, an individual copy of a master template for every single student in the class. So I have a master copy of this template that I created that just has the basic setup for the heading, a placeholder for the working title. It's in the proper font, it's in the proper spacing, all of that. So if you want to make things easier for yourself, you could go in and click your template here, but you don't want to start typing over it. What you would want to do is come up here to File and then make a copy. And then when you click on that, notice it's going to let you rename that copy. And I already have the naming conventions for files. So I would, back out over this. I would remove copy of, and I would have last name underscore first name underscore, and then I would have maybe Grove underscore draft one, right? And then if I make a copy, it's going to make a copy. You're going to have the heading already created, and then you would just need to erase the text, put your cursor here, start typing. Now you would have to change a few things in the heading. You'd have to put your name, put your last name in the running header, but it's kind of a shortcut way for you to set up a new paper or a new document or a new assignment, and it just saves you a little bit of space and time in doing that. But again, you'd come up here and do File, make a copy. You would not want to type over the actual template. You don't have to use that. You could obviously type it from scratch by hand, but just making sure to save it in your own personal folder for this class. Really important that you do that because all file-based assignments it's required that you draft them in there. If you draft anywhere else, if you draft in another program, if you went into your Google account and opened a document elsewhere, that won't work. It really needs to be in the shared Google document, because then everything is there for both of us. And it also, by me using this method, I also have the appropriate permissions for all the files you create, excuse me, without you having to remember to set those. So this is like the easiest, most foolproof way for us to work. So in a moment, when I get this video done, I will unhide that folder so you can access. But one thing I do want to point out is that there are a handful of students for whom I don't have a Gmail account. And those are students that either didn't take the quiz, but I also have one student who accidentally didn't give me her Gmail address in the quiz, and I didn't catch it until I was grading. I just kind of saw an email there and gave everybody 100, but it wasn't until I was creating these that I discovered one person accidentally did not give me her Gmail. She gave me something different, and it has to be the Gmail. So if you click in here and you don't see anything, please reach out. It's probably that I just need your Gmail account. All right, so let's go look into the literary argument unit. At the top, I've got a folder with the important basics. So this is going to have the assignment sheet, a plain PDF copy of the story, and there's a little Gemini app that I created in there that just shows you the basic layout. It's interactive. It's an interactive little page that you can click on various parts and see, what aspect of MLA formatting that is. And then when we click into the first week, see that I've got the welcome video here, and I have some typed lessons, and I have a plain copy of the SCORM quiz for conventions of writing about literature. Now, before you draft, you're going to want to make sure that you read the little lecture for Introduction to the In a Grove paper. Look at the conventions of writing about literature. I also have some handouts in here, and when you see handouts and things like that, or example files with example paragraphs, you really want to print those out if at all possible, so that you can have them in front of you when you work. When you write your In a Grove paper, you shouldn't be, accessing it from Hypothesis. It should be downloaded to your computer, and ideally printed out. I highly recommend that you annotate in some sense by hand, just so that you can find what you need from that physical copy more quickly than you would be otherwise. Also, go back and look at your Hypothesis annotations. You might have some things that are good there, but you really want to print out anything that you possibly can so you have it in front of you when you're drafting. I have a link to the interactive presentation that you saw in the SCORM quiz. This way you can click on it. You can click back through it as needed. It's not tied to a grade. And then let me go ahead and click into the drafting lesson for In a Grove. You really want to make sure that you read and watch all lesson content, because if you don't, you may not be following directions for some aspect. For example, there's a very specific required structure for this paper, and when I see students don't follow that, I know that they either maybe didn't access the lessons, or maybe they accessed them but you didn't process them deeply. One of the things that I highly recommend in the class, even though what I'm showing you is not rocket science. I know everybody's had English class in high school and things like that, but there are different expectations for our various papers. There's different expectations between a college paper and maybe a high school paper, and a lot of times professors are going to be very specific about what they want. And so if you only are clicking into the assignment links and you're not looking at the content, you're missing out on the instruction, you're missing out on the examples, and if you're not reading these things, then it's probably likely that you may not be following full instructions. Because one of the things that I want everybody to remember is that Draft 1 is only graded on completion. Did you do it? Number 2, did you follow directions? Are you And that means not only from the assignment sheet itself, but from the lessons and from the examples and paragraphs that I have shown you in the course. So a lot of times I can tell how much somebody has accessed, what they've seen, or what they've deeply processed based on what they turn in. When you see things like this, uh, you click on that and it will expand. We don't really need to create an outline in here, but I have the start of one here just to kind of show the value of them and what they look like. In terms of our structure, let me just open this because I think it'll make it a little bit more apparent. In terms of our structure, you're going to have the introduction, and we're going to have the same elements in our introduction, but we're all going to have a different approach to that. So this is, this was mine, and our structure is going to be introduction, thesis as the last line with no announcements. Don't put your 1, 2, 3 reasons, just a plain simple who did it claim. And then we're going to have 2 counter arguments. The counter argument for false confessor number 1, making a case for why they couldn't possibly have committed the murder. So you're going to kind of go through and try to blow their their testimony, their account out of the water, show how they couldn't possibly have done it, but also make a case for why on earth would they have confessed to a murder that they did not actually commit. Then you'll follow that with another counter argument for second false confessor. Excuse me. And then the very last point will be your positive argument for whoever you think the real killer is, and then the conclusion. We do have 5 required sections, but we're not going to have any that are probably a single paragraph. We're not going to have any that are devoted to the testimonies of the minor characters. You are going to use those, but you'll use those in a way that is useful in your main sections. Keep in mind that even though we have 5 sections in the paper, you will not have 5 paragraphs. That's not really a thing in college classes. It's not that it's wrong per se, but it's just not good practice. Nobody in a college class is going to have an introduction, here are my 3 reasons, and conclusion. The structure for this one just happened to fit the overall parts section, but it's important to know that if you've really read the the short story deeply, at least some of your body sections will probably be at least 2 paragraphs. Some might be 1, but some will be 2. So your paper's gonna end up being more than 5 paragraphs. About half a page is a good rule of thumb. So you're going to want to go through the whole thing. And another thing that I recommend is, and I try really hard to make things as concise as I can, but also thorough enough so you know what all goes in a given section. And I provide examples for pretty much everything we do in the class. And so you're always going to want to make sure that you take a look at those. So right here, I've got a sample intro and I've got a sample body section. It's important to know that normally when you're writing a paper, I don't give examples on the exact story or the exact thing that we're working on. Or if I do, I don't develop it as much, simply because I don't want to give you I don't want to give too much. So I do have a sample body section here that's 1 paragraph in the start of another, but you'll see at the very top it says sample start of a section. So this is very underdeveloped. I did it on purpose so that I didn't do too much, so that if you have a similar argument for this section, you still have some work that needs to be done. I've got a very basic sample intro here, but it has all of the required components that I list above. So the point of me going over this is just to show that it really is important that you don't just click into the lessons, but that you also attend to them. These can be printed out, so you would want to download these and print them out so that you could have them. As you notice, when you click on these, you can make them full screen and so on. So I also show in here how the parenthetical notes should look. And so when I see your drafts and if I see things don't look the way they're supposed to, or some directions that are not being followed, I can usually tell that maybe a student either rushed through the lessons, didn't click on them, or didn't fully process and kind of commit them um, to memory. Another recommendation that I get, it's just good advice in general, but I've had students validate this over the years, is that when you're clicking on various things, it's good to have a spiral notebook. And not that we're learning rocket science here, but if you jot things down, jot examples down, and things like that, then you have those. It's kind of like taking notes in a regular class. And those are the students, many of the students who've told me that are the ones who have gotten an A. Again, not because it's rocket science, but the act of writing things down will help you transfer that from words on a page on your screen or words on a page on a paper into your long-term memory. So you'll want to do that before you draft your paper. So once you do that, you're ready to start drafting the paper. We're going to be on a really tight schedule again because we're in a 4.5 week session, and we have to cram in 15 weeks of work in 4.5 weeks. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of insane, but we all signed up, to do this. I'm going to do my very best to make it manageable. So we're starting with our shorter, easier paper. And so this paper was originally going to be due on Sunday, which is the day I'm making this video. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I'm going to have to push it to Monday. So that's going to give like maybe a day to write 2 pages and a day to write the other. Keep in mind that the drafts are graded only on completion, following directions, and authenticity. Please don't use AI on the drafting of this. Don't look anything up on the regular internet and things like that. Number one, it takes all the fun out of it. Number two, once you read something, you can't get it out of your head and it's tempting to use it. And then it starts to not represent what you're really doing. I am very AI forward and a huge nerd and fan of using it in ethical ways for learning, and we are going to use it, but we're going to use it primarily as an after the fact kind of thing for most things. There are going to be some times where we're brainstorming or using it as a thought partner, conversation partner type thing, but for drafts and things like that, it's really better for us to take a human first approach, write the draft, take a stab at it on our own, use the examples that I've provided as a guide for what yours should look like, and then we'll invite AI to the table, and we'll do some activities where we're getting AI feedback, human feedback, peer tutor feedback, and so on. And I'll show you how to do that. It's going to be very useful. So we are going to use AI in a number of ways. I'm not anti-AI at all. In fact, I'm probably one of the most AI forward professors you may end up having here at STC. But we still have to draw lines in the sand, and we still have to make sure that your papers represent your own critical thinking and your own growth as a writer over time. So we are going to use it, just not in the drafting. And I ask that you please not do it, because I know I say this every semester, and every semester, I always have a certain percentage of students that will use it up front anyway, thinking that I may not catch it, or that maybe they're good at hiding it. And I'm not saying that, I'm perfect or infallible. I can be fooled just like anybody else, but I am pretty good at this, and it is pretty easy to tell. And it sets us all back, especially on a 4.5 week session. And what I wouldn't want to have happen is, if it happens, it requires a meeting. So then we have to schedule a meeting. It has to be on camera. And it's lovely to get to meet everybody, but that's not the circumstance at which I want to get to know everybody. And it's not to fuss, it's not to, scold or anything, but just to kind of give you an opportunity to get back on track. But we can't keep doing the back and forth with that, and it puts you further behind. And if it puts you further behind, that can put you in a bind in an online class, and now you can't participate in any of the other assignments that require draft one. And we really need everybody to turn in draft one, because if you don't have that in, you can't participate in a bunch of assignments that rely on that. If it's AI generated, heavily AI infused, you'll be pulled from the stack. We got to have the meeting. I'll help you get back on track. But now you're also going to be taking zeros on the things that require draft one. Then you got to get caught up, and it's just it's even more of a mess in this short session. So don't mean to harp on that, but just make sure that you're drafting on your own, because you're going to get 100 on it if it's authentic, if you tried, and if you follow directions. Those are the only things that I take off points for. If I ask for 4 pages and you give me 3, well, that's a 25% deduction because you only gave me 75% of the draft. So, that would be a 75, but it's a low stakes grade. The draft one is more than a homework assignment, but it's not a major grade like a final draft. So this should be very low stress, no stress. This is kind of just getting started on writing the paper. All right, that's it. That's a wrap. I'm going to go ahead and publish this and get it out. I'm probably not going to put it in a user quiz because I can't afford to have this be due later in the day. We've got to jump on it and get started on the Intergrove paper. Y'all have a great day, and if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out.